And ladies and gentlemen, please find your seats. Our ceremony will begin shortly. Throughout the ceremony, you will be given cues to rise and be seated at the appropriate times. As a reminder, during the singing of our national anthem, military members may stand at attention, and civilian guests are invited to place their right hand over their heart. We request all cell phones be turned off during the duration of the ceremony. Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am Master Sergeant Monique Trek, and your MC for today's ceremony. We are here to recognize and honor Senior Master Sergeant Finch's distinguished career spanning more than 22 years of dedicated service in the United States Air Force. Officiating today's ceremony is Colonel Colin Huckins, United States Air Force, retired. We'd like to recognize our distinguished guests and family members who are in attendance for today's ceremony. Colonel Huckins' wife, Mrs. Mandy Huckins. Senior Master Sergeant Finch's husband, Jamie Finch, and their sons, JT and Fletcher. Also, please welcome her mother, Robin Carr, her father and mother-in-law, Milton and Audrey Finch. Finally, please welcome members of Senior Master Sergeant Finch's Bible Study Life Group. Thank you all, A1 team, family, and friends for being with us today. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the arrival of the official party, singing of our national anthem by Mr. John Kennedy.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watch were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Yeah,
That deserves some applause.
Mr. Finch, please come forward and offer the invocation.
An invocation, a summoning to us. Summoning what? Summoning who? Heavenly Father, we invoke the Spirit of your eternal Son into this room. We invoke your Spirit into this new situation that Jenny and those around her are now faced with. We thank you for blessing her as she added her services and life, her life, to protecting this nation and her peoples. Now, O Lord, bless her and those around her as she moves into other areas of endeavor. Bless those around her to offer her assistance and joy as she moves into areas unknown. Give her confidence and peace, and be an ever-assuring presence in her continued steps through this life that you have blessed us all with. By your assurance, she gains assurance. By your peace, she gains peace. By your love, she gains love. We invoke these very real and spiritual blessings into her life and those connected with her. It is in your Son's name, your Son's authority, that we pray these things. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Mr. Kennedy, Mr. Finch. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. It is an honor for me to introduce the presiding official for today's ceremony, Colonel Colin Huckins. Sir, the floor is yours.
All right, I'm on a script these days because my political correctness has changed a little bit, so Mandy had to read all my material before I was allowed to go on. There were several jokes that were edited, so it might not be as funny as it would have if it was all my material. I also have my CVS glasses because my dogs chewed up both pairs of my other glasses, so I'm on the readers here. But I still look good with them. Let's be honest. Just kidding. This is why I'm on the script. I'm already totally off. Happy to get started. All right. That was not one of the approved jokes. All right. Greetings, family, friends, fellow airmen. Great to see our some familiar faces in the crowd. A1ers starting to leave. Sorry, I didn't see you back here before. I didn't have my glasses on. Now I can, when'd you get here? It's an honor to be here and honor Senior Master Sergeant Jennifer Finch on the occasion of retirement after what will be 22 years, 3 months, and 22 days of service to our nation. I especially want to thank Jamie, JT, Fletcher, although he probably won't remember any of this. If anything, my speech probably, but he probably won't forget that. As well as Jenny's mother, Robin. Thank you for being here. It's a long drive for you. I know, you probably flew, hopefully. And father and mother-in-law, Milton and Audrey, thank you for being here. Thank you for the invitation. It was great. We thank you for your support and sacrifice over the years, and we're really happy that all of you could be here to join us. Wasn't that an awesome national anthem? I had to go back and thank Mr. Kennedy because he always sneaks out like right after he does it, and I would actually go to a ceremony if he was singing the national anthem just to hear him sing because it's always awesome. And now that I basically live in my shop in my backyard, I don't get to hear the national anthem ever unless I'm invited to one of these things. So that's incredible. And now I'm a big wimp and I start getting choked up. Like I started getting choked up writing these comments today, just thinking about what this means to Jenny and reflecting back on my time, and it's really special. So I'm really happy to be here. I want to thank Jenny for honoring me by allowing me to be part of her ceremony. I'm pretty sure it's because I'm retired myself. She knew that I'd have nothing else going on, so I couldn't come up with any excuses. So I was like, yeah, I'm available. But nonetheless, I am very honored that you asked me and to be able to recognize this outstanding warrior seated over here. Mandy was also excited because it ensured that I now had to shave and take a shower, which is surprisingly easy to neglect when you're just hanging out in your shop every day. You just roll out of bed. Sometimes I take my pajama bottoms and exchange them for jeans and go out there. Other times I'm just in the shop in my pajamas. That's cool. Retirement's awesome. You're second guessing your choice now, aren't you?
Jamie is.
Yeah. He's like, this is what the military is like? No. Only when it's no holds barred when you have a retiree up here. You're like, you can say anything. It's fine. Just ask Oz. I learned from the best. So I've been retired for exactly 1 year in 3 days. I know the A1 folks in here are probably saying, wow, time really flew by. That went fast. Life's been so much better over the last year. That's okay. It has flown by for me too. A lot of my friends who retired before me told me that it would be rough at first, that I'd probably go through a period of depression, that I'd be staring at the phone, waiting for an email or a text, and that I would have a brief period of time off and want to get right back in the fight. Well, I do stare at my phone a lot as I play Castle Crush sitting on my back porch with a beer in my hand. But other than that, I can't tell you how wrong they were. Retirement is awesome. My dogs have never been so well supervised. My yard is patrolled several times a day by me. The only downside is that the staff at Lowe's have made me start telling the other customers that I don't actually work there. So take my advice for what it's worth. Bottom line, I know how excited Jenny and Jamie are to have the extra time together. And with a brand new baby in the house, what a great time for this to happen. I won't lie, it's hard for me to adequately communicate what more than 20 years of service and sacrifice really means. When you're at the end of your first enlistment at around 4 years, getting to 20 seems like an eternity away. Once you're there, you look back and wonder where the time went. Specifically, in your case, 22 years, 3 months, and 22 days of service. For some perspective, it might help to relate that to some key events. Senior Master Sergeant Finch enlisted in the Air Force on 13 September 2000, basically right out of high school. Almost to the day, 1 year later, the tragic events of 9/11 changed us as Americans forever when we were attacked on our home soil. Shortly after, we were engaged fighting terrorists in Afghanistan, a war that lasted nearly Jenny's entire career. In 2001, Wikipedia was also launched. The beginning of our "it's on the internet, it must be true" mentality officially began. I can't tell you how many speeches I wrote in a 4-star CAG based off of Wikipedia information. It's frightening. In 2002, Tom Brady won his first Super Bowl, boo, with the New England Patriots. His first one. And that guy's ancient, so there's some perspective. That was 2002. 2003, the U.S. invaded Iraq, and we still have service members there to this day. In 2004, Facebook was formed, and Ronald Reagan, 40th President of the United States, passed away. 2007, the iPhone was released. Productivity in the Air Force went way down. 2009, the swine flu pandemic swept across the U.S. 2011, the world population reached 7 billion, and the Syrian civil war began, yet another conflict where the U.S. military would be called to serve. 2012, Putin was elected the first time, and on and on and on. And that just brings us up to 10 years ago. My point isn't to make Senior Master Sergeant Finch feel old, or any of us. Some of us are even older than her. But to me, it's a reminder that the 22 years, 3 months, and 22 days that Senior Master Sergeant Finch served is a significant period of our lives. The world continues to move on while she's sacrificing. In the military, relationships are hard. We make deep friendships, but we also move frequently, so your support system changes often. She moved 7 times in those 22 years, in addition to multiple deployments. Keeping up with family and getting home is hard. You start to lose track. Some of your relationships weaken, especially when you're routinely sent to remote locations with challenging time zone issues and limited communications. But that's what service requires, and she was willing to make that sacrifice, along with her family was as well. I love the idea of service, and I think a quote I read by Gandhi sums it up best. He said, "The best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others." So despite all the challenges, despite the sacrifices, at the end of these 22 years, 3 months, and 22 days, you're also hopefully left with a feeling of satisfaction and of pride. As I mentioned earlier, Senior Master Sergeant Finch entered the Air Force in 2000, almost right out of high school. She grew up in Boulder, no, not Colorado, the other Boulder in Montana. Population 1,201. Does that sound about right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Because of its residents' well-known proclivity to be OCD, she was voted to have to leave town to bring the population down to 1,200, an even number. She was the one that had to leave. So the Air Force it was. Now, I believe your hometown has a lot to do with your DNA and what makes you who you are. So much like my hometown of Sturgis, South Dakota, a blue-collar ranching and mining town, it's partially responsible for my belief in hard work and appreciating nature's beauty. Also, my appreciation for a good tattoo and leather chaps. Oz the chaps with jeans. That's not I never mind. Okay. But anyways, change subject. I wondered how Boulder, Montana may have influenced Jenny, so I did a little research. I was curious about the name. Perhaps taken after a famous explorer or Wild West hero. Nope. There were many boulders in the area, rocks. So Boulder Valley and later Boulder, the city, were creatively named. So it wasn't a sense of creativity she got, but what else? When I asked Jenny the greatest lessons she learned growing up in rural Montana, as if on cue, she said, never kick a fresh cow pie on a hot day, and don't squat with your spurs on. So she did get something out of those years. I can't argue with that advice, and I could see it being useful, so I wrote those down for my own personal use. Let's get back on script here. So recently, a high school graduate. See, the funny ones Mandy took out. Sorry. So recently, a high school graduate, Jenny, looks around and decides she wants to try something new. Now, not having a recent member of the family who had served in the military, she didn't have anyone to warn her, so she thought, I'll join the military, and how about the Air Force? How fitting was that after entering Air Force's Open General, she would be assigned to the services career field, every 18-year-old's dream job. She probably didn't even know what it was when they told her that. I joke about that because I also love the fact that our services airmen have the most thankless and underappreciated jobs, because that's what service truly is to me. Rarely recognized, often criticized, but absolutely impossible to do without. After basic training, her first base had probably seemed a million miles away from home in Montana. She arrived at Dover Air Force Base, Delaware, as a guest services representative at a huge AMC base, bedding down more than 75,000 service members a year. Right off the bat, the work ethic and standard of excellence we know as a senior master sergeant are displayed by her as an airman first class. Excellent Performer Award from the base commander while TDY, voted most valuable player by the lodging staff, and selected for her first of many deployments to the 386th Air Expeditionary Group in Kuwait, as operations in Afghanistan are in full swing. She'd spent 2 years at Dover building the foundation of a successful career. This is also where she would get her first exposure to a very difficult, but one of the most honorable jobs in our service, working at the Port Mortuary in Dover, handling our fallen heroes. A job she told me was one of the most rewarding throughout her career. Next, she gets assigned a little closer to home, F.E. Warren Air Force Base in Wyoming. It's very flat, they have no mountains, but you can see them way out there, so it's kind of cool. Here she supported the airmen in the missile fields, a challenging job with a rigorous schedule, and she was initially a chef at a missile alert facility. Again, immediately recognized for her attention to detail and work ethic. Over the next 5.5 years, she worked her way up to shift leader, supervisor, then NCOIC at the dining facility. Finally, she would end her tour at F.E. Warren the last year working as the mortuary affairs specialist. Now, as an officer who grew up in the Air Force, came up initially as a personnel officer, which later became force support when we merged with services, which is the career field Jenny was in. I initially thought it was really strange that we have these airmen that go from food service and working in the dining facility or the gym, and then all of a sudden they're in charge of this totally unrelated, I thought, job of mortuary affairs. However, I grew to appreciate it because to survive and thrive as a services troop, you have to have very thick skin and be prepared for anything and everything. When I was a squadron commander one time, I had a wing commander who asked if we could have the pepper ground a little finer because he didn't like the thicker little flakes when he would go in the defac and eat. So we're in the kitchen grinding up the pepper, trying to get it. So we have one pepper shaker that has a little bit finer pepper. So when he came in to eat, we'd swap him out at his table, like that one time a month that he came in there. And it just blew my mind as a new services guy. I was like, really? You can't just say no. No, you make it happen. So this is when I started to understand the value of services airmen as mortuary techs. Because when you're dealing with a grieving family, there oftentimes is no rhyme or reason to some of their requests because they're not thinking about things clearly, and your job is to be there and support them, make them feel comfortable, and take care of that family. And so that's when it kind of started to click for me that they're the perfect skill set to go into that job. Jenny excelled at this job as she has at every other. After Effie Warren, where she rose from the rank of A1C and now she's a staff sergeant, she gets the call to Fort Dix, which later became Joint Base McGuire-Dix Lake Force Complex. She spent a lot of time there. She begins her tour as a contingency skills instructor, which is a hand-picked job as a core team preparing Air Force's airmen to deploy. I know how good she is at detail work, so after that she's chosen to be the point person for all of the unit's finances as the group resource advisor. You hear that, John? Which is a huge job, managing almost $40 million now as a tech sergeant. During this, they don't even let me do that as a colonel. They have a guy like John who tells me what to do with my money, and she's doing this as a tech sergeant. During this period, she also moves across the street to McGuire, where she becomes the NCOIC of Fitness and Sports, the obvious choice based on her huge biceps and her sub-6 minute mile run times, and later as the NCOIC of Readiness Plans. She actually had to go do curls to interview for that job. It's impressive. As we know, it's a key job that requires your best airmen, where they're almost solely responsible for the training of an entire squadron for contingency operations and managing the readiness of the whole unit. She was also detailed to the Air Force Mortuary Affairs Operations as a family support team NCOIC and the squadron's Mortuary Affairs Tech, deploying in support of Operation Enduring Freedom, and once again taking care of families of our fallen heroes. Her expertise in mortuary was recognized, and she was honored with the opportunity to PCS to Dover Air Force Base in 2016, where she became the Education and Training Manager. Once again, possibly the key NCO role in that unit as a linchpin for all operations honoring fallen heroes in that prestigious organization. Zero room for error and under very high pressure circumstances. I didn't know Jenny was there at the time. I was in the A1 front office in the Pentagon, and that was the thing that we could not fail at. And it was a weekly, my boss getting involved because the president's going to be there, the chief of staff of the Air Force, the SecDef. I mean, all eyes are on that organization, which is 70 people, maybe something like that. It's unbelievably high pressure there, and she excelled. After 2 years at Dover, she was called to lead once again and moved to the garden spot of Cannon Air Force Base. If you've never been to Clovis, New Mexico, either to vacation or look for a retirement community, it's a little sparse. Once again, that's what service is all about. You go where you're asked to go. And Jenny went there, and she excelled. First as the food service superintendent, but then as the superintendent of the Wing Inspector General, which is responsible for making sure that everyone else is doing what they're supposed to do, the entire wing. And this is where she achieved the rank of Senior Master Sergeant. Luckily for us here at AFCENT, that's where we were given the opportunity to hire her away. I don't know that she was necessarily trying to come to show off. I can't remember all the details of how that went, but we were ecstatic to get her. That's where we were given the opportunity to hire her here to this most important, fun job of her career with the greatest co-workers and the most awesome bosses she ever had. These are just the things she asked me to say. All I can say is we were happy to have her, and she had some big shoes to fill. We had Chief Select, actually had Jay pinned on Chief before he left, who was incredible. And when he left, I thought, oh man, we're never gonna replace him. And within a couple months, we were like, Jay, who's trying to call back here? I don't even remember what his last name was, because she was great. He's great too, but she walked in and just kept things going. It was awesome. She did have some big shoes to fill. She did it amazingly. Just keeping Oz between the lines is an enormous feat. And one she kind of accomplished despite his best efforts. Another thing I wanted to talk about a little bit is what's in her paperwork somewhat, but what she didn't get enough credit for, is we had a big chief gap when our A1 superintendent left. And she's the one who stepped up to the plate to fill those shoes, which means in addition to her normal job, she's also going to meetings with all the other chiefs in the headquarters as a senior master sergeant, which it's easy to get run over. Also, A1 is probably one of the more difficult areas to be a non-chief in chief meetings because we provide all the things that people want to complain about, and you have to try to educate folks. She's also advocating for all the other NCOs and senior NCOs in our organization, helping to fight for stratifications and all the things that take care of the careers of our airmen. And she did that in addition to her other job, and she did it famously. She was awesome. She's just a pleasure to work with, and she pretty much did anything that I said, which is a great sign of a senior NCO. Just kidding. She didn't. Well, a great sign of a senior NCO is somebody who's willing to tell you, I think you're wrong, and not everybody will do that. And she supported my decisions, but also gave me great advice when probably half the time the way I wanted to go might not have been the right way. And so I just want to personally thank you for all that support that you gave me. It really was outstanding. I think something else was probably also calling her to Shaw Air Force Base, although she didn't know it at the time. But Senior Master Sergeant Finch showed up here as a single senior NCO. Signed up for some dating sites, I guess, and so, you know, she's swiping left, she's swiping right, she's talking, I don't know, she told me it was like in the, 30 or 40 guys she was like, you know, interviewing, and there was like a long, I couldn't really make sense of it was a long process, but what really got her is her and Jamie had been talking on the phone. They hadn't met for about 30 days, like about a month, right? He has a family emergency. His dog had some kind of a medical emergency, and he's got to take him, is it a him or a her? Yeah. Him to the emergency vet. So while they're on the phone, she says, I need to be there to support this guy who's been there for me for 30 days. I need to show up for him. So they meet. Were you living in Bucks Corner at the time? Somerville, same thing. So they meet up. The first time they meet, he's holding his dog. I'm just envisioning this. It's like 10% is true. It's a good story. So he's holding the dog, who's throwing up all over. He's got dog pee on him. He's bawling. He's crying. He's upset, which I get. I'm a dog guy. And she sees this man, her first impression, and thinks, that's going to be the father of my child. That's all true. All of it. Now, I'm just glad I'm married now because I don't understand any of that whole dating situation, and I'd probably be single the rest of my life. So, Mandy, please never leave me because I'll be alone forever. But we're glad they got together. I've met Jamie a few times, but I can tell that he's just an awesome individual. And her telling me, you know, we were just talking about Fletcher and how things were going, and I can already tell that how much she appreciates JT and what a great, you know, she's telling me what a great brother that he's been, and that their family unit is just awesome to see. So we're really happy for you guys. So maybe that's probably the reason that you ended up here. Now, I didn't read every accolade. I didn't go through every EPR. We'd be here for hours and hours and hours. But by the nature of the fact that she reached the grade of Senior Master Sergeant, a very rare and honorable feat, suffice it to say her record is full of accolades. She has lots of number one stratifications, number one of 600 airmen as the Air Force Space Command Services Airman of the Year, for example. She has more deployments than I mentioned where she excelled at every job, had significant challenges where she overcame and excelled. But if you know Senior Master Sergeant Finch, you already know these things to be true. What we're here to do today is honor and thank you. Thank you for sacrificing for us, for being a leader, a warrior, a wingman, and a friend. As we look to define service, we need to look no further than this airman right here. 22 years, 3 months, and 22 days of sacrifice, dedication, and excellence because her country asked her to. Now it's time to rebalance that focus on her family. I know you'll continue to be a great advocate for our airmen, but I can't wait to see you thrive as a mom, wife, and a civilian. Good luck and Godspeed. Should we make it official?
Yes, sir.
Let's do it.
Please stand for the medal presentation and publishing of the retirement order.
Publish order.
Attention to order. Citation to accompany the award of Meritorious Service Medal, 2nd Oak Leaf Cluster, to Senior Master Sergeant Jennifer E. Finch for meritorious service 4 June 2021 to 31 December 2022. Senior Master Sergeant Jennifer E. Finch distinguished herself by meritorious service as Superintendent, Services Division, Manpower, Service, Personnel and Services Directorate, 9th Air Force, Air Forces Central, Shaw Air Force Base, South Carolina. During this period, Senior Finch guided 1,200 personnel, managed 59 facilities, and $98.2 million in sales across 6 air expeditionary wings, supporting 52,000 joint deployed members. Additionally, she transformed readiness by instructing 7 Force Support Senior Leaders contingency courses, mentoring 175 expeditionary commanders, deputies, and superintendent while concurrently revising outdated contracting and non-appropriate fund accountant handbooks. Furthermore, Senior Finch oversaw 6 mortuary collection point and 36 deployed Air Force mortuary affairs operation requirements, facilitating the repatriation of 241 fallen heroes, which led her to her team selection as the Air Combat Command 2020 Team of the Year. Finally, she led services support during the Afghanistan non-combatant evacuation operation, streamlining bed down and food operations for 130,000 Department of Defense, Department of State, and Afghan civilians, which resulted in her selection as the 2021 9th Air Force, Air Forces Central, Manpower, Personnel, and Services Directorate Non-Commissioned Officer of the Year. The singularly distinctive accomplishment of Senior Finch culminate a distinguished career in the service of her country and reflect great credit upon herself and the United States Air Force. Please remain standing for the reading of the retirement order.
Publish the order.
Attention to orders. Department of the Air Force Special Order Number AC005538, dated 31 March 2022, effective 1 January 2023. Senior Master Sergeant Jennifer E. Finch is relieved from active duty with 22 years, 3 months, and 18 days of faithful and dedicated service by the order of the Secretary of the Air Force. Woo! Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Colonel Huckins will now present Senior Master Sergeant Finch with a certificate of appreciation from the President of the United States, which reads, Certificate of Appreciation for Service in the Armed Force of the United States of America, Senior Master Sergeant Jennifer E. Finch. I extend my personal gratitude and sincere appreciation of a grateful nation to you and your patriotic service to our country. Your bravery and dedication in our armed forces help protect your fellow Americans during a critical moment in our history and contribute to a world of greater security and growing prosperity. Your devotion to duty, honor, and country, in keeping with the long traditions of the finest military in the world, embodies the American ideal of service, selflessness service. Our nation owes you an incredible debt. Your commitment and the example you set will inspire future generations to serve with pride and to keep our country secure. You represent the best of our nation, and I join our fellow Americans in saluting your honorable service. I wish you happiness and success in your next chapter. Signed, Joseph R. Biden, Jr., Commander-in-Chief. Colonel Huckins will now present Senior Master Sergeant Finch with a certificate of appreciation from the Chief of Staff of the Air Force, which reads Certificate of Retirement from the Armed Forces of the United States of America. This is to certify that Senior Master Sergeant Jennifer E. Finch, having served faithfully and honorably, is retired from the United States Air Force on the first day of January 2023. Signed, Alexis G. Grinkowicz, Lieutenant General, Commander, 9th Air Force, Air Forces Central, and General Charles Q. Brown, Jr., Air Force Chief of Staff. We are pleased to present with a Certificate of Appreciation from the Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force, which reads, I am proud to join your friends and family in congratulating you on your retirement from the United States Air Force. The achievement and contributions you have made throughout your career are indicative of the core values of our great service. Your retirement is well deserved, but your selfless contribution will be sorely missed. On behalf of all airmen, thank you for your faithful and devoted service to our nation. As this chapter in your life closes and a new one begins, I hope the years ahead are filled with more great memories and continued success. Signed, Joanne S. Bass, Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force. We are pleased to present you with the following letter from the Commander, 9th Air Force, Air Forces Central, which reads, Dear Jenny, as you retire from 22 years of active duty in the United States Air Force, please accept my personal thanks and the sincere appreciation of the entire 9th Air Force, Air Forces Central team for your countless contribution to our country. Your many years of honorable and dedicated service have helped maintain the security of our nation during a critical time in its history. Your devotion to duty and spirit of sacrifice set an important standard for all to emulate, and in keeping with the proud tradition of our Air Force and our airmen. My deepest respects, thanks, and sincere best wishes to you and James for happiness and success in the future. Sincerely, Alexis G. Grinkowicz, Lieutenant General, United States Air Force, Commander, 9th Air Force, Air Forces Central. At this time, we would like to ask Senior Master Sergeant Finch's husband, Jamie, to please come forward to place the retirement pin. The retirement pin signifies Senior Master Sergeant Finch's proud service to duty and country. Mr. Finch, please affix the retirement pin to your wife's lapel in recognition of her distinguished career. Colonel Huckins will now present Mr. Finch with a Certificate of Appreciation from the Chief of Staff of the Air Force, which reads, in grateful appreciation, the United States Air Force presents this Certificate of Recognition to James M. Finch, Jr. for the commitment and numerous contributions that made positive impact to the nation's defense. Thank you for your support, which gave strength and purpose to your spouse's service. Signed, Alexis G. Grinkowicz, Lieutenant General, United States Air Force, 9th Air Force, Air Forces Central, and General Charles Q. Brown, Jr., Air Force Chief of Staff. Colonel Huckins will now present a Certificate of Appreciation from the Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force, which reads, on behalf of our Air Force airmen and their families, the Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force presents the Certificate of Appreciation to James M. Finch, Jr. I join your spouse, family, and friends in thanking you for the numerous contributions and sacrifices you made in support of our United States Air Force. Your dedication gave strength and purpose to your spouse's service in defense of our nation. Signed, Joanne S. Bass, Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force.
You guys are going to have to buy any artwork for your new house.
Mr. Finch, we are also pleased to present you with the following letter from the Commander, 9th Air Force, Air Forces Central, which reads, Dear James, as Jennifer retires from 22 years of service, please accept my sincere thanks for many contributions and sacrifices you have made while supporting her. Your support has been critical to her success, and we owe you a tremendous debt of gratitude. On behalf of the men and women of the 9th Air Force, Air Forces Central team, and a grateful nation, we appreciate you and Jennifer well as you begin the next exciting phase of your lives. My best wish to you and your family, much happiness and success in the future. Sincerely, Alexis G. Grinkowicz, Lieutenant General, United States Air Force, Commander, 9th Air Force, Air Forces Central. Thank you again, Mr. Finch. At this time, we'd like to ask Senior Master Sergeant Finch's children, JT and Fletcher, to come forward to receive their certificate of appreciation from the Commander, 9th Air Force, Air Forces Central. The certificate reads, "For your dedication, commitment, and numerous sacrifice that allowed your mother to serve faithfully in support of our nation's defense, on behalf of the entire Air Force and the people of this nation, thank you for providing strength and purpose to your mother's sacrifice." Signed, Alexis G. Grinkowicz, Lieutenant General, United States Air Force, Commander, 9th Air Force, Air Forces Central. Oh. Thank you, JT and Fletcher. Now, for a special flag folding presentation in honor of Senior Master Sergeant Finch's retirement. Ladies and gentlemen, please remain seated as Tech Sergeant Ashley Long and Mrs. Tanya Murrell perform the ceremonial folding of the flag. For more than 200 years, the American flag has been the symbol of our nation's unity, as well as a source of pride and inspiration for millions of citizens. Born on June 14, 1777, the Second Continental Congress determined that the flag of the United States be 13 stripes, alternating between 7 red and 6 white, and that the Union be 13 stars, white, in a blue field representing a new constellation. Between 1777 and 1960, the shape and design of the flag evolved into the flag presented before you today. The 13 horizontal stripes represent the original 13 colonies, while the stars represent the 50 states of the Union. The colors of the flag are symbolic as well. Red symbolizes hardiness and valor. White signifies purity and innocence, and blue represents diligence, perseverance, and justice. Traditionally a symbol of liberty, the American flag has carried the message of freedom and inspired Americans both home and abroad. In 1814, Francis Scott Key was so moved at seeing the Stars and Stripes waving after the British shelling of Baltimore's Fort McHenry that he wrote the words of the Star-Spangled Banner. In 1892, the flag inspired Francis Bellamy to write the Pledge of Allegiance, our most famous flag salute and patriotic oath. In July 1969, the American flag was flown in space when Neil Armstrong planted it on the surface of the moon. Today, our flag flies on constellations of Air Force satellites that circle our globe and on the thin flash of our aircraft in harm's way in every corner of the world. Indeed, it flies in the heart of every airman who serves our great nation. The sun never sets on our United States Air Force, nor on the flag we so proudly cherish. Since 1776, no generation of Americans have been spared the responsibility of defending the freedom. Today's airmen remain committed to preserving the freedom that others won for us, for generations to come. By displaying the flag and giving a distinct fold, we show respect to the flag and express our gratitude to those individuals who fought and continue to fight for the freedom at home and abroad. Since the dawn of the 20th century, airmen have proudly flown the flag in every major conflict on land and skies around the world. It is their responsibility, our responsibility, to continue to protect and preserve the rights, privileges, and freedoms that we as Americans enjoy today. The United States flag represents who we are. It stands for the freedom we share and the pride and patriotism we feel for our country. We share its legacy as a beacon of hope to one and all. Long may it wave. This time we'll go ahead and present gifts. So A1S, Mr. Oz,
And Ashley?
and Ashley.
Who said who?
I'll open it while you talk, because I know you're going to talk.
What's that?
So I'll open it while you talk.
Oh, okay. So, everything you said, where's Colonel Hawkins at? Oh, everything you said was almost 100% accurate.
I had somewhere to be, I just left.
But, you know, with it, A1's a house, and then A1S is a little house inside a bigger house, and we like to keep some of our stuff in-house. So when Jenny came to Ascent, the middle of COVID, I mean, like, it's been like forever, but that was like the peak of it. I think we had to get her a waiver to drive across the country to come to us. But within A1S, we were a little divisive. Who Jenny replaced was great professionally, but he was a little divisive internally. And I was always putting Band-Aids and tourniquets on relationships within A1S. So Jenny came in and turned us back into really being a family like we try to be within A1 and especially within A1S. And I really appreciate that. All the work stuff, you know, of course. But yeah, we definitely got to hear a lot of stories about swiping. But as soon as she met Jamie, I didn't even know. I didn't know what Bumble and Grindr and all these websites are. I don't know anything about these things.
He was Santee Cooper guy for a while.
Yeah, they all had nicknames.
Oh, that was
Santee
him?
Cooper guy.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't a lot, you know, but there were more than I
There's
could
so many, it's
remember.
hard to keep track.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
But I am, personally, I mean, all the work stuff, you know, we can replace airmen, but we can't replace the people, right? And, you know, just being able to hang out and talk about wood burning and birds and wood burning and everything else in life, you know, it was just an amazing time. And
White
it-
squirrels.
yeah. But Jessica and Ashley put their heads together and tried to come up with something that really said Jenny. Now don't use this.
I
It's
was like,
not.
Fletcher, oh man.
Yeah, it's to keep Jamie in line. I mean, it might look like a canoe paddle. But we wanted to get something because most people might not know she owns some property in the mountains. Because she rolls like that. Well, her and Jamie own
She
property in
also
the
likes to
mountains.
kayak.
Yeah, and she likes to kayak. So we wanted to get something that represents that, and they could eventually move to Branford if hopefully you guys move up there and invite me up to see the squirrels. We were gonna get you a white squirrel, but there's laws and such. It's a Branford thing. Anyway, it says, Senior Finch, thank you for your hard work and dedication and enabling Ascent to fly, fight, and win. I don't have my damn glasses on it. Doesn't say any of that shit, you know that.
Not what it says.
I was about to be in shock. I was like, this does not sound like an A1S.
So we have our A1 patch and then our A1S patch. So actually the donkey one.
The donkey.
Thank you for being an integral part of Ascent A1S. However, it seems you should be thanking us. After 2 years with A1S, you now own a beautiful home, property in the mountains, you got married, you had a baby, and you started a wood burning business. Geez, the things you've done are innumerable. You will be missed. Oz, Jess, Coop, me, Jamie, the one that's not your husband, and all the newbies.
The other Jamie.
So,
Thank you. Thank you.
Does anyone else have anything to present?
Jamie. Which one's yours? The blue one? Blue bag one. Sorry. Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Whatever you want. Okay. Over here, no.
I can do it.
Right.
I'm not big on speaking in groups, but for my baby daughter, I'm going to. She was about the best do that. She was like the best daughter anybody could ever have. Now, when she was smaller, she has an older brother that's 2 years older than her. And he was in 1st or 2nd grade, and he comes home, Mom, we're gonna do a coloring contest at school. So he brings 2 of the same pictures. So Jennifer wants to do one. And her brother says, okay. So they're coloring, I come check on him. Well, her brother, he got bored of it, he was tired. No, she finished that picture inside the lines. And that is how her whole life was. She gave it everything when she did things, and she never quit. And Mom is ever so proud of you and loves you. Now, the other little tiny story I want to tell is we have 5 children. She's our only daughter. She comes to us and tells us that she's going to join the Air Force. Of course, I'm scared, I'm worried my daughter is going to go to the Air Force. So she gets her list of stuff that she's supposed to take to basic training. Her mother thinks she's doing a really good job by getting this nice big suitcase to take with her. So the first time she calls me up and says that she had to hold that thing, her suitcase up when she first got off the bus. I'm thinking, I didn't know her mama was gonna make her struggle the minute she stepped off the bus. Now, her daddy couldn't be here, but he wanted me to tell you that he loves you. He's so sad that he couldn't be here. Her and her dad have a very special bond. They're very outdoorsy, even though we have 4 other boys. She's the outdoorsy one. So he says, tell you how much he loves you, and he's sorry he couldn't be here, and he's very proud of you. And your mother has always been so proud of you. There, I made it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I am honored
I
to.
don't think that's done with the gifts. Sorry.
Oh, is there more?
Yeah.
Presentation? I'm sorry. More. More gifts.
So, she's over there, the mother-in-law. I'm just a mother. But call it a message. We want to thank you for becoming such an integral part of our son's life and the love that you brought, the constancy that you brought. We love you. Thank you for sharing the love.
Are there any more gifts? That's it?
My husband doesn't want to come up.
Okay. No? Oh. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I am honored to introduce Senior Master Sergeant Jennifer Finch, retired.
I think I was gonna cry till I started talking. Just a few thank yous to start out. First, just thank God for just allowing me to be here today. And Colonel Huckins, truly means a lot for you and Mandy to come and be part of this. Thank you so much. Sergeant Hunt, Sergeant Trick, Senior Corallo, Sergeant Hines, I know you don't even know me, but thank you so much for being here, helping out. Sergeant Long and Tanya for doing the flag folding. I appreciate it. Mr. Kennedy, even though he jumped out. I heard him sing at the air show, and I was like, he's got to sing at my retirement. So he's such a kind man. Maddie for the cake. My other life group members, Tabby and Robert, thank you for being here today. Just thank you all for taking a little bit of time out on your Friday. I know it's Friday and everybody probably wants to go home, but thank you so much for being here. shout out to Ron back there, almost didn't recognize you.
He
Driving
knows how to
up.
be retired.
Mine won't be a witty speech, I'm not, a talker. 22 years, it's very surreal standing here today. Went by so fast, blink of an eye, can't believe it's been that long. I've been an airman longer than I haven't been an airman, so it's a little scary, a little nervous, but excited to have this transition. Just the friends I've made that became family over the years, that's probably the best thing about the Air Force. So the places I've been and the experiences I've had, I never would have had otherwise. My advice for my fellow military members in here is, even though it's kind of put into us, don't compete with each other, just compete with yourself, or achieve your own goals and take care of each other. And don't let family fall to the wayside. Now the hard part. Audrey and Milton, thank you for always being so welcoming. I love you guys so much. From day one, they've made me feel like family. I just really appreciate having them here since my family is so far away. JT, such an awesome kid, and so lucky to be your bonus mom. I look forward to see what life has for you. I got the wrong one. Sorry. It looks too similar. We just sorted it out. My dad, he can't be here, so I kind of talked to him through the camera. His job, he just couldn't come out. Like my mom said, we are two peas in a pod. We are so much alike. He's truly shaped who I am today, just with his work ethic and everything he's done for our family. Our sense of humor, just our hobbies. So sorry you couldn't be here, Dad, but I appreciate you so much. Mom, my best friend. Sorry. You're the one person through all the years that was always there for me, no matter what. I can always count on you. Just thank you for all the times you've come and stayed with me, just like now, to take care of Fletcher. I would not be here today without my mom. Little Fletcher. Since Fletcher really won't probably remember this, we created him a little shadow box, and we're going to put his certificate from today in it. Those of you who know me know it was a struggle to get pregnant, and everything was perfect when we found out about him. And he's so healthy, and he's just truly the joy of my life. And I'm just so lucky that God chose me to be his mom. He's such a good little baby, and I hope one day he knows just how proud I am of him, and can look back on my service and remember this day possibly through the video. If, who knows what technology will be like when he's old. We got him this little here. Jamie, you only came in at the end of my service, but just, thank you for everything you do for our family. You're my best friend. So lucky that we met that cold, dark night in the emergency parking lot. That is a true story, by the way. It is a true story, but I'm just so grateful to have you in my life. I love you so much, and I can't wait to see what life has for us. really nervous while I was up here, so if I forgot to thank anyone, I apologize, but just thank you all so much for being here. Chief, for your mentorship, Oz, for all the fun times we've had, just my whole A1 family. It's just truly been an honor to finish my time out here, and I just really appreciate you guys being here today. That's all I got.
The men and women of the United States Air Force are proud to have served with Senior Master Sergeant Finch, and which wish her every success as she transitions to another exciting chapter of her life. Everyone's already standing, but please please rise for the playing and singing of the Air Force song and the departure of the official party.
Not the A1 version.
No, it was birthday key.
Yonder,
In the sun, here they come, seeming to be our thunder. And boys, give her the gun,
Give the guns.
County guys, spouting our flames from